So I began my career in the East Village, and I started off as a figurative painter. I still love the figure. I taught the figure in graduate school. And I did a lot of work using the figure in an expressive way. And then I had to take 10 years off after I had a show in Korea. And my son came. And unfortunately, I was left as a single dad. And so I put my career on hold for 10 years. It was painful, but I had to be a father and a mother, and I did it. Then when my son was old enough, I decided to go back and to start painting again. But I didn't know what to paint. The old forms and the old impetus wasn't there anymore. There was a painter named John Faulkner in California, a British painter. And at the time I was looking to make objects and I was fighting to make things work. And he told me to relax. He said, painting is nothing more than the orchestration of color and the arrangement of shape. And that was very liberating, even before this experience, although I bring that quote to this experience, because it's all about orchestrating or making a rectangle work, or whatever the shape you use as an artist to work. So I took 35 stretched canvases and I put them on the floor of a room that I rented in a friend's house, and I started orchestrating color and shape. So the experience started with trusting the fact that I was an educated painter, that I had had experience and success. But after the experience of raising my son, there was no need to say anything anymore. I know that sounds odd because everybody feels that they have something to say, but I said everything that I could say while I was raising my son. But the paint, after that experience, I decided that I didn't know what to paint, and I just wanted to express or connect with whatever the impetus for my life was at that time. Seeing life in a very different way, from a career-oriented artist to somebody who raised a baby and experienced life in a very different way. I became sort of a conduit for the paint. I am very humble in front of paint. That the paint has a life, has a spirit that is not allowed often to manifest itself. People control it. Technique and style, formal training. Not that I'm against formal training. I mean, I went to a very small art school at the beginning of when I started to study. I wasn't allowed to shade a drawing for a year, but I learned that line gave me everything that I needed to create volume, light, and form. Pencils from light to dark, thin to thick. And I was able to create form in a way that I'd never experienced before. And I was also focused in a way that I had not been experienced before. And then I threw all of that away, with it in the back of my mind or in my DNA, however you want to see it. And I started to just allow the energy to flow through and to find its way onto the canvas. Now I make the choices. I make the choices of color. I make the choices of areas where painting needs to be, something doesn't work. But once I allow the paint to move on its own, it will give me opportunities that I'd never experienced before. In the way that it mandates its existence through me, and that was exciting. It's important as for me as a person to and I'd never experienced this before, where painting has offered me an opportunity for growth. I was always controlling it. I knew what I wanted to paint. I knew what I wanted to happen. And I used my technique and my skills to make that happen. But this is something different. Something much more connected to my soul, to the spirit or whatever it is that's in the paint. I work on the floor. I work from all four sides of the canvas. And the canvas, the paint, shows me different things at different times. Each side of the canvas is a different painting. I once thought the idea of putting it on some sort of a mechanism where it would turn 90 degrees every couple of minutes and it would be a different title for the painting. The process, and it depends on the time of the year of the process. Sometimes, I've worked in cold studios, as I'm sure many artists have, and paint reacts different, especially the medium that I use reacts differently at different times of the year. So I have my spring, summer, and fall paintings, and they change. They change overnight. Sometimes I will flood the painting with medium, and the color will be on the surface moving around when I leave, and in the morning it settles and it shows me what it is. And then I have the next opportunity to move forward with it. The paint had a mind of its own in many instances, which excited me because it took some of the pressure off of me to come up with the ideas. And I then embraced the concept of the paint being a collaborator with me in creating the painting. In the 50s, there was an art critic named Harold Rosenberg who said that at a certain point, American artists started to act on the paint, on the canvas, and that was the definition of action painting. And his statement was that at the end of the action, the painter found out who they were within the context of the experience. What I understood from my experience of allowing the paint to have a life or say was that what we found at the end of the experience was what the painting wanted to be. And that excited me. It excited me because paint then became something that wasn't just manipulated, controlled, jailed, tamed, its spirit being broken by a technique or a stylistic approach to making pictures. That it had a life, that it had an energy, and that it had something to say. And so that's where these paintings came from, was the experience of my being a co-conspirator with color and its viscosity, its liquidness, its thickness, its everything that it had to offer me, so that I was able to allow the paintings to emerge from the experience. So it's an approach. It isn't a style. It isn't a technique. It's an approach, a humble approach with painting, or with paint, to make paintings happen. The painting is called Dreaming of Him on Her Deathbed. It started off like the other paintings, but at a certain moment, certain things appeared that I couldn't deny, and I didn't want to deny, because it's about an experience in a relationship that I had with a particular woman. And so I went into it betrayed, if you will, my approach, and used my skills as a figurative artist to bring that particular painting out. And it has a lot of the elements, obviously, of the pour, the spill, as I call it. But I decided to take what I saw and bring it forward. Most of the paintings there's many ways to my paintings, but there's not one solution. Each solution is based on individuals finding themselves inside of them. Sometimes they don't like what they find, sometimes they love what they find. But that painting is something that I found, and I decided to, as I said, bring it forward. So painting is not about picturing for me. It's about allowing the body to experience something. We've been living in a world in the last number of years in what seems cynical in a way to me. Out of the head and into the heart. Where when people stand in front of the painting, it takes their breath away. Now that can be done with realist painting. I stand in front of Rembrandt and I spend hours looking in the darkness of his paintings, because darkness is not depression. It is not negative. What's negative about the night sky? There's nothing negative about the night sky. And the thing about the experience has to do with, a love that I have for paint. I don't think that someone and I did it, who learned a technique and continues to practice that technique without growth, because it looks like art, is really allowing themselves the pleasure of growing as a painter or an artist, or as an individual. There's a connection between the experience of paint and the finality of the object that is important for me to put out for people, to give them the opportunity to experience the image. Nobody has a non-expressive feeling for what I do, which is very gratifying. They like it or they don't. And I haven't had too many people who don't, because I think it radiates a particular energy that speaks to their soul. It doesn't necessarily speak to their mind, or their sense of decor. It speaks to their experience. That is the greatest part of this moment in my life as an artist.